Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will, and today we will be talking about happiness with Brittni Pope. Now, for some of you who are watching the show, normally I do talk about education topics and I interview educators. But I like personal and professional development, and this topic really came about from visiting Brittany's page, which was recommended by YouTube. And I checked it out, and I watched a couple of the fashion bits, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But then I started watching her vlogs and her talking about these topics, and I was like, she's on to something. Let's get her on. And so I reached out, and she said yes. So uh, I'm excited. So, Brittany, for those who may not know who you are, particularly my viewers, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittni Pope. I am 25 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And a lot of the work that I do online that Dr. Will is speaking about is geared towards personal development, self-development, motivational topics, uplifting topics, empowering people. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of and that I always enjoy talking about because I think that the best way to make an impact in this life is to help people and to show people that there is a different way of living and it doesn't have to be sad or stressful. It can be happy and fun filled, and any way that I can contribute to people living a happy life is that's my main goal in everything that I do. So
Excellent. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, let's just get into it. People have all sorts of ideas or definitions when they start to think about happiness or what makes them happy. So let's just begin by defining happiness. What does happiness mean to you?
for me, happiness has multiple definitions and it's always changing. I think firstly, happiness for me represents freedom because the type of happiness that I try to get people to understand exists is an unconditional type of happiness where so that means basically it isn't based on, oh, you have the job that you want, oh, you have all the material possessions that you want, and it's more or less finding happiness within yourself and letting that be a consistent and constant thing in your life that you work towards every day, whether it's learning how to appreciate the small things, waking up, choosing to be happy. Happiness is, it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. Happiness is a decision. Happiness is a choice. And every day I have to choose happiness because I think especially in today's society, it's so easy to be inundated with all of the negative that's going on in the world. And when you wake up and you check your social media and you see that there was a bombing here or a shooting here, it's so easy to either become desensitized or to take that on to the point where it's difficult for you to live a happy life because there's so much going on. And so I think happiness is recognizing that though there is that there are bad things happening, that you can find a place within yourself to get beyond that, and you can hold on to that happiness, and it doesn't have to be affected by what's going on outside of your control.
Cool, cool. So, what's something you've learned about happiness that has surprised you, and what was your journey like getting to the point to where you are?
I think the one thing that surprised me most about happiness is that it's actually attainable. And I say that because, and this is going to be the segue into answering the second part of the question about my journey to happiness, is that for a long time in my life, almost 10 years, I would say that I was very depressed. I was suicidal. I was so unhappy. I think people probably didn't know that because of how I carry myself or how I look. I think people expect for a depressed person to look a certain way. And because I didn't fit that stereotype, I think people overlook the fact that I was really, really sad. And so when I started this journey to happiness, happiness was never the end game. I didn't think that I could be happy. I just didn't want to be so sad. And so everything was all about just trying to take steps in a direction that would help alleviate the sadness and suffering and pain that I was feeling on a day-to-day basis. And so that was like the catalyst for my spiritual journey. And I've been really practicing that heavy for about 3 years. And so I started to realize that I could feel happy in certain moments. And so then from that point, it was like, okay, if I can feel happy in this moment, then maybe I can feel happy in another moment. And maybe I can extend that happiness that I'm feeling to all of the moments. And so my journey has always been an uphill battle to happiness. And I recently did a video where I talk more in depth about my journey with depression and my experience with depression. And I said that basically the way that my brain is hardwired, I have to fight against that every day. My brain defaults to worrying. My brain defaults to being scared and panicking and all of the negative emotions that are out there. That's when something goes wrong or something unexpected happens, my brain wants to go there first. And so a lot of my work has been in retraining my brain, retraining the way that I think so that it is positive, so that it is happy, so that it is knowing that everything is going to be okay. But it still makes it for me a choice every day. Like I have to fight for my happiness, and it isn't easy. And I think that's what some people think happiness is for happy people. They're like, oh, it's just easy for you. You don't understand. And I want to represent the perspective for people that have gone through major struggles that no, it isn't easy. It's a decision. It's a choice every day to search for the positive, to search for the happy, to search for the good in life and people. And that part of my journey has been, I think, one of the most enriching parts, because I understand the contrast, because I lived the contrast for so long. So I know what it's like to be on the end of the spectrum where you don't want to live, where you don't want to go on. And I know what it's like to be on the end of the spectrum where you wake up happy and overjoyed for no reason at all. And it's not something that can happen overnight, but it is something that can happen.
Wow. Wow, I appreciate this. We all have our practices, daily habits, or things that we do. Is there anything you find yourself doing that gets in the way of your happiness?
Definitely. Overthinking, overanalyzing, putting my fear ahead of my faith. Anything that has to do with thinking of the worst case scenario has the capability to interfere with my happiness. And I have to go against it always, because it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole of negative self-talk. And once you've got that momentum going, especially if it's going in a negative direction, it is so hard to correct that. You usually have to make it to the bottom of the rabbit hole and then climb your way back up so that you can rebuild and repair all the damage that has been done to yourself, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, because you allowed yourself to go in that direction. So for me, it definitely comes down to overthinking situations and overanalyzing it and feeling like I'm out of control. So I'm hardwired to want to be in control, but my spiritual practice teaches me that I don't have control. There is the control that I have is over my perspective. It's over how I choose to see things and frame things in my mind. So I can't control other people. I can't control conditions. All I can do is control my thinking. And when I allow conditions to control me, that's when I feel the most disconnected. That's when I feel the most out of alignment with myself and what I know to be true. And that's when it really affects my happiness.
Wow. So, if or when you get off track, is there a practice, a song, a written word, or something that you have found to be helpful?
Absolutely. I would say that my number one tool to change my get back to that happy place is music. Music really possesses transformative properties in my mind. I I either have dance parties or jam sessions, and I like to say that my life is one of the two, because I think we can all relate to, if we're sad, we can find sad music to keep bringing that sadness out of ourselves. Or if we're happy, we can listen to music that will help keep that happy flow going. So when I feel myself going a negative route, I immediately try to correct it with music. And I immediately try to correct it with uplifting music instead of playing music that further plays into that negative feeling that I may be experiencing in that moment. So I will either step away and listen to music on my phone or go to my car and just jam out, because you can really immerse yourself in the moment, in the music, in the feeling that this particular song is trying to convey. So I like to tell people, so that's something that you can do really quickly usually to help correct something before it gets too far out of your control, and then you're really having to try and fix something that music may not be able to help with immediately. Another thing that I love to do is I like to use soothing self-talk. And this is a practice that I learned from Abraham Hicks, who is amazing. And she talks about, when you start talking poorly to yourself, talking negatively to yourself, you need to correct it and talk to yourself sort of childlike, in the sense that, Brittni, it's going to be okay. All is well. God loves you. You don't have to worry. You are well taken care of. And just repeating that over and over and over again, as long as it takes, until I can feel myself relax and ease into that knowing of knowing that all is well. And then another thing that I do is, I think that we can really get so caught up in something that's going wrong in our life that we forget about all of the things that are going right. So I like to either take out a piece of paper, a notebook or something, and immediately start writing down all of the blessings in my life. And in that moment, you know, it feels like this one thing that has gone wrong takes precedence over everything else. But as soon as you start writing, and say you get to about the 10th blessing and you realize like how much you have to be thankful for, it it really helps change your perspective, to go from wanting to change something that's out of your control to appreciation. And if you are in a place of appreciation, you can find things to be happy about. It only takes writing a few things to understand, like, wow, this really, what I'm upset about really isn't that significant compared to all of the amazing things in my life right now.
I'm telling y'all, I'm enjoying myself right now. It's like I'm interviewing, but I wish I could just put this on this TV right now, just be a viewer myself, because I'm loving this.
Yay!
So, as human beings, it just I don't know if this is just a part of our DNA, but it's just really easy for you to seek happiness in a paycheck or in a job title or belonging to this clique or that clique, or saying, yo, I need this girl who look like this on my arm, or what have you. How do you or people avoid the trap of looking for happiness in people and in stuff?
By recognizing that people and things are transient, and not to confuse happiness with attachment. I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that we make on our journey to happiness. I think when you ask people, I just want to be happy, or ask them what they want, I just want to be happy, I just want to be happy, but they haven't at that point defined usually what happiness means to them. Happiness is such a relative and subjective definition. And so when people take the time to figure out what happiness means to them, I think that's when they can start the journey of avoiding that trap. But until they define that for themselves, they're going to associate their happiness with a person or their happiness with a thing. And usually then when that person, say for instance, you're in a relationship and you make this person your entire world, the sun rises and sets on this individual. And we all know that people, as much as we love them, they have the inherent ability to disappoint us. And so for whatever reason, this relationship ends. And now you feel that your world has now collapsed and is going to end because this person is no longer in your life. That is because you confused happiness with attachment. And we all know, and as most spiritual teachers tell us, that attachment is the root cause of suffering. So your happiness has to, and I want to watch my wording here because I don't want to imply that people can't add to your happiness, but your happiness needs to be something that isn't affected negatively by people or things and their presence in your life. Because if that person decides to leave you, you've got to be able to pick up the pieces and continue on in your life. You've got to be able to find a happy place again. So if you can, and it's not to diminish the pain that would come from a relationship ending. It's just to say that it doesn't have to be the end of your world. It doesn't have to compromise the happiness that you feel internally. And throughout my journey, I have really experienced this. I've talked about in other videos about how for a long time I associated my self-worth, my happiness, all of that with men that I had been in relationships with or that were dating, and then it didn't work out. And all of that work that I'd done, I thought for myself was really for that individual. And so at the end of the relationship, I was left feeling shattered, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? But since I've started my journey and since I've started this practice, I can set happiness and well-being in my life. Like, it doesn't matter. And you can be incredibly important to me, but if the relationship ends for whatever reason, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, I'm going to still be happy. The sun will still rise in my life because I know that my happiness isn't for someone else to take. It isn't theirs. It's mine. I'll give people the space to add to the happiness. If you're a healthy addition to my life, by all means, you can add to the happiness, but it doesn't ever change the fact that the happiness exists. And as far as things go, I think one of the most beautiful things that I've experienced in my life is being able to acquire some of the things that I wanted so badly growing up. Like the woman who I am now, I envisioned being her 6 years ago. And I had no clue all of the blessings that would come my way. And so I've been able to acquire a lot of it, only to recognize that while it's awesome to have it, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you feel more of something else. You can't find happiness in things, because if it's a car, then it's one car accident away. If it's a house, then it's one house fire away. So you can't put your happiness in that, because material possessions, they mean something. And you got the 2014, the 2015 is coming out, then the 2016. So it's like this race that you can't win if you're seeking happiness in things. And oftentimes we associate our happiness with things because we care about how people outside of ourselves view us. Most of us, if we didn't care so much about what people outside of ourselves thought of the things that we had, we'd have a lot different things. Like, we wouldn't have people in crazy amounts of debt buying cars that they can't afford. But they think that people who are outside of themselves see them with this car, that makes them have this amazing life going on, and that they're happy, when that kind of happiness is so vapid, it's so transparent, and there's no longevity in conditional happiness. There's no longevity in finding happiness in people or in things. And if we can get to a space of understanding that the only place that we should ever be looking for happiness is within, then that helps alleviate any issue that comes from searching for happiness outside of ourselves.
Oprah, you better watch out. Better watch out. Oprah. Brittni Pope is in the house. Ooh, I should be charging people. This show should not be free. This should be pay-per-view only on my show. Because this, I'm telling you, I'm so loving this. So for folks who are watching the show and they may be feeling unhappy and have no idea how to begin the process to change, what is your advice?
Well, I'm going to try and summarize it as generally as I can, because of course everyone's situation is unique. But I'll say that what has worked for me and what I've gone through and experienced, and again, I've experienced being incredibly unhappy to being incredibly happy. We have control over certain areas of our life that we like to act like we don't. Like, we like to put things on other people and sort of give over our power when we don't have to. So I would say, if you're starting from rock bottom, which hopefully you aren't, but if you are starting from rock bottom, you have to think about your life critically and identify and take the time to identify what areas of your life are causing or contributing to this unhappiness that you're feeling. For many of us, it's unhealthy and unfulfilling friendships or relationships. It might be a job that you're unhappy in. It might be a living situation. There could be it's really limitless as far as what conditions could be contributing to us being unhappy. And then you have to say, okay, once you've recognized whatever conditions they are, figuring out how you can make a change within the relationship, within the situation, to help it work towards your happiness, towards your benefit. I understand that it's complex. Like, I understand that if you're in an unhappy relationship, but it's complicated, maybe there are children in the situation, maybe you don't feel that you can make it without your partner, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it means walking away. And sometimes it means that your happiness means so much to you that you're willing to walk away or let go of relationships that are no longer serving you, because that's usually where it's stemming from the most, from what I found. And I know that that was the case for myself. But you're usually holding on to these kinds of relationships out of fear that a better partner won't come along, or that out of fear that a better friend won't come along. And so sort of alleviating that fear and trusting that by creating that space, you're creating space for the right person or people to come into your life. Or say it's a situation, like a circumstance, you're unhappy in your job. We would all like to believe that if we're unhappy in our job, we can say, you know what, screw it, I quit, I'm done, bye. But it's a lot more nuanced than that, right? We have bills, we have responsibilities, so we can't just walk away. So maybe it means shifting your perspective to appreciation if you want to find another position, but you can't quit. Maybe it's making the action to find another job that makes you happy. But while you're in that position, recognizing, hey, I'm grateful for this. It might not be my ideal situation, but at least it's affording me the opportunity to do things that I enjoy, to pay my bills comfortably, to support and provide for myself or my family. And just looking for any aspect that you can appreciate, looking for that and making that your main priority. Another suggestion would be do more of the things that make you happy. So just like how you have to think about things that are contributing to your unhappiness, think about things that contribute to your happiness. For me, I like going to the movies by myself. I love food, so I like finding different restaurants. I like listening to music really loud, so I play music really loud. I like laughing, so I try to put myself in scenarios and situations that bring out laughter in me. And so it's important to really sort of figure out those things, because sometimes we place so much importance on things that are making us unhappy that we forget the things that make us happy. And then a lot of us, as we grow into adulthood, we forget that happiness even matters. So then you have to think back to your adolescence, typically, to recognize or remember things that you enjoy doing. And you have to get back to that. Sometimes you have to do things that take your mind off of things. Like for me, fishing. I love to fish because for whatever reason, when I go fishing, I don't think about anything else but fishing. So maybe it's finding that activity in your life that will help you not think so much about what's going on in your life. And it's all baby steps. All of it is a process. Some days are going to be better than other days. Some days you're going to take 12 steps forward. Other days you're going to feel like you take 12 steps backwards. But you have to just be easy on yourself and go easy on yourself and understand that you are living a human experience. And it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel unhappy. And I think so often people think that it's not okay to feel those emotions, especially when you're on your path and your journey. You try to not feel those emotions because you're so scared that you're going against your practice. But you've got to understand that you're human. Those emotions are natural, but you have to know how to not get caught up in them. I know for me, if I'm feeling upset, I feel it in the moment. That's the best time to deal with it, is in the moment, so that you're not carrying it on with you. You don't want to sweep it under the rug, because if you do that, then of course you're not dealing with it in the moment. And it's just going to keep accumulating and accruing, and then you're just going to snap, and you don't want to do that either. So dealing with it in the moment and recognizing it for what it is and appreciating it for what it is, because that's how you're also going to gain clarity. And part of finding happiness is gaining clarity, and you gain clarity through contrast. So yes, this particular person upset me. This action that they did upset me really, really badly. And I feel upset and I feel angry. But now I know even more clearly what I want versus what I don't want. And so you can find things in those experiences to help contribute to your happiness, even if in the moment it feels like all it's doing is negatively impacting you. And I think learning to be happy for no reason or in spite of uncertainty is key. It's so funny. I'll wake up and I'll just be happy for no reason, because I've at that point decided I'm just going to be happy. And I know it was really strange for me when I started being happy and being really happy out loud, that I was met with like, why are you so happy? That's strange. Like, what are you so happy about? And I was kind of offended, because like, here I've done all this work to get this happy, and now I'm here, and now I'm being met with this confused response as to why I'm just so happy. And then that kind of made me I still wanted to be happy, but I was afraid of being happy out loud because I thought it made people uncomfortable. And then I got over that really quickly. And I'm like happy and proud and out loud about it, because another way to increase happiness in your life is to take it so seriously that you have a dominant positive energy, to take it so seriously that you walk away from things that aren't making you happy, and that you're really vocal about how important your happiness is to you. And I think that when you get to a place of being comfortable being happy, most people aren't even comfortable being happy because they've been in pain for so long. I know for me, it was at first generally uncomfortable being unhappy. So as you're on being happy rather. So as you're on your journey to finding this happiness, learning to be comfortable with being happy for no reason, because that's the kind of happiness that I want people to have, is that unconditional happiness, that happiness that isn't dependent upon people or things going right, because things are going to go right, things are going to go wrong, and you just have to be prepared for that to come and to happen in that way. But knowing that you can maintain that happiness in spite of everything should always, always, always be the goal. knowing that that happiness is there for you, that when you actively participate in making sure that that happiness stays in your life, knowing that the universe will support you, knowing that you can attract the best out of people. I feel that generally I have some of the best interactions with people because I show up on 10. Like, I show up happy. I show up positive. And then for whatever reason, even if it's in that moment, they pull themselves up to reach my level or as far up as they can go. And that's because for me, happiness is so important. It's so crucial. It's too much of a risk to spend time and energy on things that don't contribute to that. And so when you're looking to change things in your life, a lot of times we have to look inwardly at changing ourselves first. We do have some control over things outside of ourselves, but if we don't change our attitude, if we don't change our perspective, if we don't change our desires and our wants, it doesn't matter where we are. That unhappiness is always going to be there. So a lot of times it's just rebuilding or repairing a broken relationship with yourself and starting from there and recognizing that you can connect different dots in your life to work towards an ultimate goal of being happy for no reason.
Awesome, awesome. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but I really had a good time today. And people, as always, this podcast will be on my blog. There'll also be info to be able to connect with Brittni there as well. I have some upcoming shows, people, that I'll be doing, and some of them are going to be hot as well. Well, I'm gonna say some. That makes it seem like some of these shows are just terrible. That's not the case. Dr. Will is always a hot show. Always hot show.
Always on point.
Thank you, thank you. So, people, as always, be you, edu, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.